Hello, everyone. Today is our second lesson in our course. I'm happy that Kevin posted his work. I've done some feedback for his work. Sanchi had shared with me the pattern, right, that needs to be finished, finalized. So I see some movement already, that we already started getting engaged, and I'm really happy that we're getting more people to our group. Today I have two sisters who signed up, and welcome, please, everyone who just joined, welcome. I know you're going to be watching and recording, but it doesn't really matter. Either you're watching recording or live, you know where to find me. You know that you can always text me if something privately you want to talk to me about. You can actually post your questions in the group. So anything that you need from me, you'll get 150%. And that's why I'm thinking that it doesn't really matter how we communicate, either for recordings or live classes. Sancha is with me today, and I welcome her. Welcome, Sancha. Hello. And it's always nice to have someone at the class. So I have some sort of collaboration, right? So we have some kind of like student-teacher collaboration that helps me out to go through the class. All right, so why don't we start, right? What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch to my drawing board, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about what we've done at our first class. And then we'll continue with our second class, all right? So just bear with me. I'm gonna be switching my video. It could disappear for a while, for the short while. I'm already setting up my space. All right, just I need to, all right, guys. All right, so let me just kind of go over what we've done last time, right? Just to remind you, refresh your memory. We've learned the ABC of Neurographica. We learned what neurographic line is all about. We've learned about shapes. We've learned about how you can use those shapes, right? If you really want to create, maybe resolve some relationship issues, or basically use any lines and figures for resolution of anything in your life. Or maybe you want something, maybe you want to buy something. You can also use shapes and lines to create the future. So let me just show you, like, work like this, right? Just to give you examples what you could do with shapes and lines. Not too many lines here, and we know that the quality of work really depends on the quantity of neurographic lines. But here, it is a really art piece, right? There is nothing here. I haven't encoded any desires. I have not wanted to do anything psychologically charged. I just wanted to create nice pattern here. And that's how it looks like, right? And it looks like, just think about, just imagine magnitude of this. You can put it on the wall. You can put it on, I don't know, on anything that you could think about, and then it becomes the art object, right? Let me show you some more what you can do. You can do black and white, right? Here's another one. And the beauty of that, you can always rotate and see what is the best way. I think this one was intended to be that way. So black and white, you could do in grayscale if you want. You can do with the white marker on the black paper. Also, it's gonna look fantastic if you want to practice some art skills. There is something like that. Here's a like totally grayscale, right? I was just practicing kind of like to see how it's gonna look like. And I loved it. It really looked very nice. And also on a big paper, something like that, right? Things like that. And they've done pretty fast just to show you what you can do with shapes and figures, and also what you can do with lines, right? This is something that you should consider if you want to do some artistic exploration, if you want to create some beautiful art for yourself, for anything else. Just think about it. You could really, using really simple shapes and lines, you can create beautiful paintings or drawings. Here's another one. This one is my favorite. I've used some sacral geometry object here, right in the center. Here I have my spiral, and here I have my spiral. But look how beautiful it looks, really. So that's why I'm saying you don't have to know how to draw. If you learn how to do the shapes, and you learn how to do the lines, and how to create neurographic pattern, and how to apply the colors, and all this comes with experience. So you should not worry about it, that your work is not gonna ever look really nice. It takes some time for some people. They jump into this and they do beautiful drawings right away. For some people it takes time, but everyone is really doing great after a while. It takes time, right? Because what we need to do, we need to rewire our brain to create a new reality for us. We do have our limitations in the way that the life journey had taught us certain lessons that we stick with, and we cannot sometimes get out from our own patterns of behavior, our own patterns of thinking. How are we going to get out? This method is about that, to get you out of your common way of living and give you a way to create the new reality for yourself. And speaking of that, right? Today we're going to be learning the very first algorithm of lifting inner limitations. And what is this about, right? What is this algorithm? I believe the whole Neurographica started with this algorithm. Pavel was traveling from Moscow to Tel Aviv, I believe, to Israel. And then the word came to him, and the word was so new to him himself that he got amazed, and he started to explore and started to draw. And he found that with Neurographica, he really can work on his emotional states, specifically when those emotional states require some tuning and require some attention, like anger, or sometimes we have fears. What else can we have? Like, let's say a couple may be arguing together, trying to resolve some issues, and then people get upset, or she's upset, he's upset, kid's upset. So what's good of it, right? So with this particular algorithm of removing inner limitations, we can really return ourselves into the balanced state of mind. So I believe this particular algorithm, and mostly we're going to be focusing on balancing our emotional situations in our life throughout the entire course. This whole course is dedicated to algorithm of lifting inner limitations for bringing us to the balanced state of mind, and also prepare us for life modeling. Because the next course, the second level, is about modeling your relationship, building your future. It's not like you're not building your future when you do something like this here, and you'll see what we're going to be doing. Yes, you are building, but in order for us to be sufficient in building our goals and get results and really do a lot of cleanup in our life, we need this algorithm. This algorithm was designed for that. It's a therapeutical algorithm, and I believe everything else in Neurographica is more about coaching, modeling, but algorithm of lifting inner limitations is about therapeutical, healing way of helping oneself to bring themselves to the balanced state of mind, the state of happiness, if you will. Sometimes you'll find yourself when you draw that, you will feel the sense of, some people even report that they get to the state of light euphoria when they feel so happy, so expanded. And it's normal, because what happens, we're activating our old neural connection. Remember, it's Neurographica. So it is all based on neuroscience. So with this work, we're activating our neural connections, the old ones, and we're also creating new patterns that will, in fact, create a new reality for us. So when you're looking through this kind of patterns, right, you're already familiar with lots of things here. You're familiar with lines, you are familiar with the rounding, right? Neurographic pattern, so-called. Here's the easier pattern. I'm just showing you the examples, right? This one is also the example of this algorithm in black and white. but I'll show you in color as well. So you will have examples of that, and then we can start talking about it. So here's another one, right? It's another one I've done yesterday. I posted it on the Facebook. I just had a very unpleasant conversation with my former co-worker who brought me bad news about the company, and I kind of got upset for a while, and then I worked through this. But you can also, through this practice, let me just show you another one, like this one. It doesn't make any sense for you right now. I'm just showing you just for the sake of showing how it looks like when it's complete. You know, this one is a little bit different because we have tangible image coming out from that work, although like everything else seems more like abstract, right? But we'll talk about all of this. And I just want to show you another work. This work, I have to put it in the right way. This work is called the Dream Catcher, and I've done it during my instructor's course. It is also the algorithm of lifting inner limitations. And this work had received the second nomination in the international competition for the best neurographic artwork. So I'm very proud of this work, and I'm even more proud that this work really got that recognition, such a high recognition. For me, that was a really big deal at that time. So speaking of algorithm, hi Annie, I see you. I'm gonna mute you if you don't mind. Right now we'll unmute, and I'm gonna unmute everyone when the class is over so you guys can ask me questions. So we went over some examples, right? But now let's talk about this. All right. So, Annie, just to bring you up to speed, we're talking about the algorithm of lifting inner limitations. And let's just take a look at a couple of things before we even start doing anything. You don't have to do anything right now. I just want to show you something. All right, here's you. Or me. Let me say me, right? It's me. Let's just put neurographic line to make it more activated, right? It's me. Now, this is coffee, okay? And this is tea, okay? So it's me. I wake up every morning, 6:30. First thing, what I do my exercise. Sometimes I take a walk, and then I have to have my coffee, right? Some people were able to quit this harmful habit, but coffee, I just love coffee. I love it for the taste. I don't drink much. My coffee is like really diluted, but I have to have coffee. So what happens? Every morning, I get up and I have to have my cup of coffee. Every day. A month ago, a week ago, a day ago, all I'm doing is I'm drinking my coffee, and I drink no tea. I just drink coffee all the time. It's just an example, right? The easiest way to understand what it's all about. So what happens here? I'm forming a habit. I'm forming a long-term habit, right? There is a pattern here, right? If I do rounding, like we learned from the previous lesson, you'll see that it is a pattern that is created with every morning that I'm drinking my coffee. Tomorrow I'm gonna drink coffee, there is another line, right? That's how the habit formed. So what happens? Very hard to quit, very hard to switch to anything else. But let's say one day I'm deciding, okay, enough. I can't do this anymore. I have to drink tea. I have to drink herbal tea every morning because coffee is not good for me. It makes me too excited. It's just a bad dependency. I don't want to have any dependency. So why don't I switch to herbal tea? All right. So I stop doing it. I stop it. And I start drinking tea. Let's say tomorrow I'm going to drink a tea. Look, if you compare this line to all of this pattern, you could see that my habit is formed here. It's not only the lines that we see here, but we also see neural connections that formed my habit to drink coffee every morning, right? And for me, in order for me to change that habit, one line, just one morning drinking a tea is not going to help, because this line is tiny. It doesn't have a power over this pattern. So what I need to do, I need to drink my tea day after tomorrow, and I have to drink more, and maybe for another month, and maybe for a couple of more months, and so forth, maybe for a year, because this habit was formed years, years took to form this habit. So now I have to really build something totally different and more powerful, okay? So if I round here, we're gonna get a new neural pattern, neurographic pattern here. I'm not gonna round everything, just a little bit, just to give you an idea, right? When we're talking about how we can change the way we think. And guess what? When we change the way we think, we change the way we do. There is like a straight correlation between thinking, doing, and creating your own reality. So here they equal, right? So I really need to continue. I need to empower this habit. I need to do this every day in order to stop this. So at some point when I'm gonna form a new habit with my tea drinking, this habit will die. It will become old neural connection, dormant. There would be no electricity between neurons. And this connection will be newly formed, fully charged with electricity, and I will be totally into that pattern. Unless something happens, sometimes things happen in our lives when we form a new habit, and it specifically happens with people who smoke cigarettes. So people like quit for a while, and then something happens to them, and then they go back to old habits. Why? Because the new connection, this new connection, whatever it is, has to be established in a way that there is no way back. Okay, we really need to be persistent with the building new way of life, right? Or some people, like let's say somebody who doesn't like to spend money, they suffer because of that, right? They saying, I can't even spend one penny. I feel like if I spend $5 more on myself, it's going to be disastrous for me. Some people just like that, and I've met people like that. So for them, in order to form a healthy relationship to money, that's exactly the same thing. If for years, and the person is like 35, 40 years old, and this person was always saving every penny, imagine how much work he needs to do in order to stop doing it and build healthy relationship with money. It works with anything. It's just coffee tea is a very simple example about how you can form your new pattern of behavior. And Neurographica is excellent because every thought has that line associated with that, right? I could say, I love drinking herbal tea. Herbal tea makes me healthy, and it makes me more naturally charged with energy. And every line, like basically you can draw every line, and then at the end, the pattern is formed, right? But for this particular change, the algorithm of lifting inner limitations is perfect, because you really can work through this algorithm with anything. You have bad habits you want to get rid of, you have some relationship issues, you have some bad relationship with money, like some people saying, I'm always broke. Some people tell me, I'm always broke, never enough money, whatever I earn, I spend, or like whatever I earned is not enough to feed my family, and things like that. It's all about how we transit all of this to the external world. Our external world is the mirror of our thinking patterns. So, sometimes we don't like to hear that. When my teacher said that, he said, well, whatever you have that's what you produce over your lifetime, over your form habits, over your thinking patterns. So whatever we experience in the real world comes from that. And for us, in order for us to have a reality that we want, first we need to clean up. We need to clean up all this emotional burden that we carry over the years and attend all of this. And then we can model. We can model our life the way we want. So that's why we really learning how to do algorithm of removing inner limitations in the beginning of the entire learning of Neurographica algorithms. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of algorithms presented by the school of Pavel Piskarev. There are a lot of algorithms that people already, our instructors have put together and they're teaching online. But we always start from this because it's the best way to start. When we jump into modeling without cleaning all the garbage that we carry over the years and currently have in our lives, then it's very difficult to move on. And we're not really, the whole energy flows to the thought pattern. A lot of people have, here's what's happening, right? Let me just show another example. Let's say here's you, that's you, right? And let's say you have something in your mind, on your mind. Oh my God, my job is not secure. For example, in my situation right now, my job at my company where I work for full time, our company is falling apart. And, you know, I could fell into a destructive pattern. And let's pretend I did. So here's my thought pattern. Just like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna die, how I'm gonna feed my family, how I'm gonna pay my mortgage. And with that, I'm just putting so much energy. My whole energy gets channeled toward this destructive thinking process. And as a result, one can stop sleeping, one can start experiencing some anxieties, anything, you know. Then on the physical level, people get sick, right? So that would be like destructive thinking. And guess what? You know, most likely, if I would do that all the time and over, think about it, most likely I will end up losing my job in a bad position. Not necessarily, but there is a big probability. And here's a creative pattern right here, where I'm saying, that's okay. I'm a professional. Doesn't matter what happens over there. Maybe it's a good for me. Maybe it's a transformation. And I stop this, switch towards positive. I'm going to put positive thinking. Right? And instead of doing this, now I'm doing that. And I'm forming the new habit of positive attitude towards what I'm doing. But look, it requires work. It doesn't happen overnight. You really need to put effort. And what the beauty of Neurographica, you do it in a fun way. You don't have to go to therapists to do this. You can do yourself, and we will learn how today. Okay, so that's one of the examples. Let's look at how Neurographica works for algorithm of lifting inner limitations. So with Neurographica, we're working with impressions. So for life experiences, we're getting feelings, we getting some experiences and so forth. And those experiences, they're creating impressions. And let's take a look, right? Let's just draw a circle here. And I'm gonna do just like that, right? And just put some vector here. So here, over here, we have a visual impression. Impressions, actually, plural. We have visual impressions. Like if I'm going to tell you a pink elephant is flying in the sky, right away your brain will construct that pink elephant that is actually flying in the sky. So visual impressions are very important because we're getting immediate feedback. We look at the blue sky, we look at the beautiful ocean. Right away we feel like, oh, the nature is so beautiful. It puts you in a very nice state of mind, meditative and so forth. But if you see like a movie, something where people are fighting, there is a war and people killing each other, immediately you feel distracted, even by looking at that, not even hearing what they're talking about. So visual impressions, and what are visual impressions? What I see. So what I see creates our visual impressions. Now, the next one is emotional impressions. Emotional impressions. Let's say you come to work and you see a coworker and she's a mean and nasty person, and we have a lot of them in our environment. For example, she can come to you and say, "Oh, I don't look your hair today. You don't look good." Or she could actually go to your boss and say, "Oh, you know, she came and I don't see her working well," and so forth. And you learn about this. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel angry, frustrated. You're going to feel that you don't deserve this. All of this is going to be on emotional level. And she may look very nice. She may look like a Barbie doll. Still, your emotional impression is going to be very negative because she would do something bad to you. And imagine with people who close to us, right? Our mother-in-laws, our children sometimes hurt us, our husbands, partners, lovers, you name it, right? So emotional impressions is what I feel. Okay? And body impressions. Body impressions. What is this all about? Sometimes you come to work, you see so many people sitting in front of computers, and it's just a noise in the room, and you're already exhausted from your previous day. Let's say you have a project to do and you have a deadline. What you can get? You can get bad headache, right? Maybe one of the side of your body can start to hurt. Maybe your hand can start to hurt. Some people say, "Oh, my back kills me." Sometimes the back pain comes from emotional pain. People just, the body tries to store pain somewhere that it doesn't affect your brain, because the whole body works for the brain. Actually, brain is the king of the body, and in order to protect brain activities, the body will sacrifice the parts of it. And that's why we see a lot of body impressions being stored, emotional impressions being stored in the body impressions. Then the body is just basically fighting for the brain to feel more or less balanced, right? So you don't go off the hook and losing your mind. So when we work with Neurographica, and that's what NeuroTrack is all about. If you remember the first lesson, remember how I said you have to tell me your mental state? Visual impressions create a mental state. You see that pink elephant flying in the sky, you're like, "Oh, it's a pink elephant flying in the sky." It may be ridiculous, it doesn't matter, but in animation stories, we see a lot of images like that, right? That not real. But anyway, your brain registers what it sees, and it is more like a mental impression. So here you see mental. Now, emotional impression, what I feel, right? Also in the NeuroTrack, we include it, and also body impression, right? Body impression. So here, what I feel and how I react body-wise. So when you're going to be producing NeuroTrack, the way I just can give you the example of that. Let's say I'm working on issue with my boss, for example, and always it's a good example to bring work situations because everyone goes from time to time through them. Let's say I work on reconciliation with my boss. So what I see him being angry. That's my visual impression. And let's say I'm working and I'm saying, "Oh, I started my work seeing my boss in my mental image to be angry." And then I started working on my drawing, and I felt anger. I felt that I am underappreciated. He doesn't recognize what I do. He hurts my feelings, and so forth. And then I started feeling that my left side started to hurt. I'm just giving you the example. And then you're going back. But during the process of my work, while I was working on my drawing, you know, that image of my anger boss had faded. And instead, I started to see something else, let's say maybe my pet or something like that. I started to kind of switch to something more pleasant. And I noticed that my emotions, they not so imbalanced. I'm not hurt. I don't feel that I'm hurt anymore. I feel like I'm coming down. I feel like I'm happy with what I do with the drawing. I like working with my colors. And here you're slowly noticing that your body impression is gone as well. You're like, oh, and now I feel like my left side doesn't hurt anymore. That's what we do when we say neurotrack, right? Uh, at the first lesson, I just pointed out to you that this is very important to capture. And I already talked to Sanchi about this, and I'm going to repeat as well that some people have troubles while they draw, they cannot register what goes on with them because their attention goes to the drawing. So for that, what I recommend, you can put a recorder on your phone and basically just speak to your phone, like if you would speak to your therapist or to your friend or to your husband, and you just say everything what goes on with you going through these three impressions: visual, which is mental, emotional impression, and body impression. All three needs to be included in NeuroTrack. And the way for me to see if you experiencing any positive changes is when you're gonna write, I felt that way, I felt bad, I felt emotionally maybe upset or anything when I started, but when I ended, I felt much better, more relaxed, happier, and so forth. For me, it shows that you've done your work. But some people may say, well, I have not noticed any changes, which is also fine because you are starting, you are new to this method. It requires time. Some people don't feel anything. They don't see anything in the beginning, but it doesn't mean anything. With time, still people see and feel and able to provide a very good neurotrack. And that is the psychological part, right? So we're not only drawing and having fun, but we're also working on our needs for our life plan because we want to have better lives than we have right now. Always there is a room for improvement. Even if you have a beautiful life, beautiful family, children, work, some people don't feel even happy even when they have that. They saying, all I want is something creative. I'm stuck at my job. All I'm doing is I'm providing to my family, but I really want to do something creative, something that I really, really wanted to do my whole life. Okay? So now let's do some exercise. Okay? Let's just take a paper and let's just put it like that. We need to fill the space or the field of our drawing. And the way we're going to do it, don't start just yet. Let me do that first, and then you'll continue with me. Let's try to fill it by just drawing straight lines, just like I'm doing it. Look. That would give you the sense of the space that you are going to be working in. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to go over the entire drawing space so I can feel the paper, I can feel the field. I feel comfortable going over this entire paper, right? Just try to do that now. Try to do that. See how you feel when you do that, right? You may have some resistance. You may feel like, oh my God, I don't know, I've never done that. And your brain may get stuck where I'm supposed to go, left, right, doesn't matter. Just try it. It's just for you to kind of fill the space, fill your drawing space. And you know, I said that at the first lesson, but I'd like to repeat it. The edges of our drawing paper, they are not the end result of the drawing, because you can always add more paper on any side of that, just like this or like that, or you could add it here and continue to the infinity. So, and let's say if you have a circle like that, right? It doesn't mean that it's only a partial circle. Yes, we can see partial circle in the physical world, but the rest of that would go to the infinity and beyond. So if you've done that, just try and see how you feel when you just do this exercise. You know what I've done? I've done something crazy with this. When my teacher was showing it, what I've done, I drew it, and then what I did, I just took this whole thing and I've rounded. I'm not saying that you guys should do it, but I just wanted to test my patience, because some people saying, oh, it's just so hard to round so many lines. But here you would have gazillion of lines. So if you really want to exercise your patience and see if you are capable of finishing rounding of all the crossings, that would give you a pretty good sense of where you are in terms of tolerance towards this process. For some people, they're saying it's therapeutical. They feel fantastic when they round. They feel actually rounded, basically, because when you draw circles, you creating some harmonized environment around you, right? Circles is the perfect figure that comes from sacred geometry, and all other figures are basically fitting into the circular shape. Okay, so I'm not saying do this, but if you want to try, I'm not saying no. So you could do that. So what we're going to be learning during today's class, and now we're actually getting towards the algorithm itself. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be working with something that is called catharsis. We're going to be working with your emotions. We're going to be working at something that really bothers you. And then we're going to arrive at the end of the class to a much more positive state. So what I would encourage you to do is to think about something that really bothers you the most. It could be family situation, it could be work situation, it could be money situation, it could be some disagreement with a friend, anything that really, really bothers you. And here's what I want you to do. Don't do this yet. First, watch what I'm doing, so then you can repeat it. So when we are working on something in Neurographica, first thing we need to do is to define the subject matter, the theme that we're working on. In our case, that would be the most disturbing situation that you currently have. You may say, I don't have anything disturbing. My life is good. Nothing goes on. Just think about then something less disturbing. It could be like annoying friend, or your neighbor bothers you from time to time. It may not be so emotionally charged, but something that you could work with, right? And look what we're going to do. I'm going to be working on my work situation here. And for me, my subject matter or the theme will be my reaction to the company that is falling apart. So frustration. It's more frustration than anything else. I've been working for this company for 18 years. It was like my second home, and now I see my second home falling apart. So the way we work on this, right? We think about it, we bring all the emotions up, we really try to get to, in our thought pattern, to bring up the event that really triggers all negative feelings about this event. And you may even have bodily reactions here. Your heart may start pumping, or you may start developing a slight headache. By the way, if you're developing slight headache, my recommendation, just drink water, right? Don't be shy drinking water. You can stand up and breathe, because when you're working with emotions, you could have some slight unpleasant side effects. They should not be dramatic. Some people may start feeling nauseous. I've seen that before, but it goes away. If you continue, all you need to do is just to get up, drink some water, walk a little bit, then come back to your work. So the way we do it, right? So I'm bringing the worst moment that I ever had at work, and my frustration and all the feeling. And on the count from 1 to 3 to 4, 4 is the maximum, I'm going to do a catharsis. And look how I'm doing it. So I've created this crazy kind of catharsis that I just threw on the paper. So some women like to take, in the kitchen, they take some cups or plates and they start really throwing them against the wall. That's how angry they are, right? Instead of doing this and killing all your kitchen, what we could do, we could just do that, right? Let me repeat it. So let me do it with the black markers so it's very visible. And just remember, we just did the exercise where we were trying to see the whole space that we have on our paper. Just like this, it has to be like this, right? You have to have enough angles. You have to have enough circular shapes. For girls, sometimes it's very hard to get angular shapes because we are more rounded than men. With men, you would see much more of this kind of patterns than we see with women, because women more tend to do more rounded. But then it's not a catharsis. It is something else. So you really need to do, that feeling, bring all the emotions, throw them on the paper. Like if you do something like this is not a catharsis, right? It's just something, I don't know, it's not. This is a catharsis. It goes all over the page, like shh, shh. What you could do right now, you could take several of your papers and try to do it. Just try to throw on the paper what you have, your feelings, your emotions. Already you're gonna start feel better. Like, I'm throwing my anger, my frustration. I don't wanna deal, it's not mine. Bam. And it's gonna be on the paper looking like this, right? When we were kids, little kids like to draw something like this. Some people sitting at the meeting, I like doing this. I'm sitting at the meeting and I'm doodling. I'm doodling all the time and people asking me, what is this? And then I'm just saying that, it's nothing really. It's just my way of communicating with myself during the meeting. It helps me to absorb information. So when you do something like this right away, it's like, okay, all right. So when you throw this on the paper, it could look like this, right? You could, sometimes people say, oh, I did it, but now I want to turn around, or that. So what I really want you to do is just to practice this now. Just take several pieces of papers. You don't have to use multimedia for this. You can use cheap paper, like print paper, and try to throw this on the paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's it. And you're done, okay? And then what you need to do, let me do another one because this one was used for the test purpose. I'm gonna do a brand new one. I'm gonna take my marker. I use Paper Mate, as I said. I like using Paper Mate. I like that kind of point. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. And let me do my catharsis here. All right, so what we usually do, you can close your eyes and bring up your, the worst moment that really relates to your theme or your subject matter that you're working on. Gain your emotional negative state around this theme or subject matter. And then, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, I'm done. And you should be done too, okay? That's the first thing. So what do we see here? It's basically our ego, right? It's our reaction towards the world or the person or the situation or anything like that, right? It is our ego that is not happy with the world. So the first thing what we would need to do is a little bit calm down, right? Because we've been angry, we threw it on the paper, we've done our first part of our catharsis, and now what we need to do is to kind of bring it to more rounded state of mind. And we're going to begin rounding. We're going to begin rounding. Sometimes markers don't do thick lines thick enough. What you could do, you could really, with neurographic line, you could really make it more visible, number one. And number two, you can thicken it up, right? You can make it like really, really stand out. And also with neurographic line, you are basically going over this pattern. You may or may not. It depends if you like to do that. I like doing it. I like to put some neurographic lines on my catharsis. You're activating it. You're activating everything that goes on here. But you don't have to, right? I'm going to do this part without it. Really, you will learn for yourself what you like the best. I've seen my teacher doing both ways. I've seen him doing just straight lines, just going over. And I'm doing it because I want to make it more visible to the camera and to the recording so everyone sees what I'm working on. And you could do too if you had the same kind of reaction of the marker that it would not do very visible pattern. You can repeat. So, okay, so I made it more visible now. All right, so now what I need to do is to round. That's the next step. And the next step is called rounding. What we're doing, we're creating neurographic pattern. So the first one was we defined the theme or subject matter that we're working on. Now, when we threw this on the paper, it became a composition of our drawing. And all the steps are outlined in the presentation that is attached to the group. So the first is the theme or the subject matter. The second is composition. And in this case, our catharsis is composition, whatever we've done on the paper. The next one, the third one, is conjoining, rounding. We are creating neurographic pattern. You don't have to write it down because it is all in your presentation that is in the group. You can always go back and see where you are, at what part of the algorithm you are, okay? And let's just start rounding. You can put a music if you want, like a slight music for yourself because you're all muted. I'm not gonna hear your music, but you know, Tibetan bowls, sometimes people put them and they start kind of like rounding everything on that catharsis part. We need to round all crossings. Why? Because crossings causing conflict in our thinking process. Our brain likes everything to be rounded in order to be balanced. That's why we need to bring it to the state of balance and feel more relaxed. Some people may say, oh, you know, check if you're breathing. Some people stop breathing when they start doing rounding. They stop breathing. But if you stop breathing or you start feeling like a slight headache or lightheaded, get up, walk around, and then come back to your drawing. Come back. So in this algorithm, you really need to round 100%. Not only this, but everything else what we're going to be doing here. In some other algorithms, even with the first one that we did, just patterns, right? We created neurographic pattern with lines and with shapes. Over there, it's not really necessary to do 100%. But in this algorithm, it is, because it is considered to be therapeutical algorithm. So in order for you to get a healing that you need, in order for your brain to accept the changes that we're creating here on the paper, you really need to try to round everything during the drawing process. So what happens sometimes with our brain thinks, oh, I've already rounded everything. I have nothing else left. But when we take a picture of the drawing, then we see that lots of things are not rounded. I've seen it so many times. Or what else you could do, you could bring it to a mirror, take a look, and you will see how many of crossings are not rounded. All right, so we need to do that. And let's say if you miss some roundings, you can always do it later in the process, right? Because sometimes like your catharsis, like it's just so big on the paper and you're trying to round everything, yet you're leaving something behind. And it's okay, you can always correct it later on. So now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get to the fourth point of this algorithm called integration. So now what we need to do, now we need to integrate ourselves with the rest of the world. Why we felt so bad? Why we feeling so frustrated? Because our ego is feeling that. Because we have a sense of separation in our negative states, right? When we're not happy with anything or anybody, what happens? We're separating ourselves from the world, basically. We say, no, it's not for me. I don't like it. It sounds terrible. I got offended and so forth. But when we are integrating ourselves into the world around us, we understand we are not alone in the way we feel. There is a world that surrounds us. And what we want, what we really want, we want to dissolve. We want to dissolve this uncomfortable state of mind. We've already done some work, we rounded it, and we would probably started to feel better. I definitely started to feel better because now it doesn't look as bad as it was in the very beginning. But now I need to dissolve it. I need to get to the point where I no longer see this pattern staring at me, even in a rounded state. I just don't want to see it anymore. I want to dissolve it in the field, in the universe, into the whole realm of being. So this whole thing will disappear for me. And the way we do it, so first of all, in the way we do it, and we're getting to the fourth step of the algorithm, integration, and it's a 4.1 step, figure and background. So you do have a figure here, and you have a white background. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be dissolving this figure in the background, okay? And the way we start with that, you see those hanging parts, and as we learned in the first lesson, nothing should really hang, nothing. So what I need to do with neurographic line, with the control, I need to either bring the hanging ends towards the edge of the paper, and we know that if I'm going to put another paper here, the line can go over it, right? But I need to connect it to the edges so I don't see anything hanging, because if something hangs, it's going to disturb me. I know that. Maybe not right away you will learn that, but with time, when you're going to start doing a lot of drawings for yourself, you'll notice right away. My students who study with me online, offline, it's been with me for a while, like 6 months, and so right away, as soon as they do catharsis, they have to really bring it to the edges, and then they feel much better. So here's also, we have like a triangle-like shape. We need to bring it over. And guess what? You need to round everything, whatever you add, you have to round. You can make line thicker by doubling it, like I do. You see that? Over here, I'm doubling the line. It doesn't go exactly to the same, not one and one, right? It goes somewhere nearby, and it touches the original line. But you can double it, and you can even triple it if you want. Look, I'm tripling it, okay? So you do this. All hanging parts need to be somehow connected to either edges of the paper, or look what else you could do. You could connect it with another line, like I did over here. So here I connected to the edge of the paper, here as well, everywhere else. But here I brought it to another line. And guess what? You need to round. It's so much fun, you know, when you start. First, it seems bizarre. Like, what am I doing here? It's like doodling. I feel like it's a kid's way of doing things, and I'm not really sure if this is something for me. But in reality, you will see, right? We just started working on this. So now, when we connected all, not all, this one is not connected, so I need to connect this one as well. So when we connected everything, now we still need to kind of like draw lines towards the edges from all over the places, because I need to dissolve this image. I need to create a totally different pattern, but that no longer reminds me this one, okay? And what I'm gonna do, from certain points of the drawing, like I'm done here. Look, I've done here. I started from here. I started from there. This point also needs to be connected. Look, I just connected it to another line. And I'm going to circle it. I'm going to round it right here. What we're going to start doing, adding lines to dissolve this whole disastrous situation that we're working on. It may not be as disastrous for you, but the algorithm is still the same, right? And we're going to go over all the steps of algorithm, don't worry. And you round as you go. You may do first lines and then round, but I find it more therapeutical when you add a line, and when you round it right away, it feels better for me. But you can experiment with this. So you don't have to do exactly how I'm doing it. I'm just telling you the way I'm doing it. And look, I'm doing it with control. All the lines have to be neurographic lines. They should not be straight lines. They should be neurographic lines. They can be doubled, they can be tripled, it's up to you, or it could be left as a single line, but that's how you do it. And then you add lines. You add lines as you go. You can bring them to the edge of the paper, or look, you can start drawing a line coming from another line. It came from here, and I'm gonna round it, right? You could do that. You could start from here. You don't have to start drawing from that shape, because it will be very hard to dissolve if you do that. And here's another line. And you know, on the way as you dissolving the whole thing, you're gonna start feeling the sense of expansion, like, ha, ha. Just think about it. Let's just think about how you felt when you started. You felt kind of contracted, I'm sure. So let's say if we take a paper, right? We take a paper and we do this. We do this, right? That's how you felt. And that's what you did. Bam! On the paper. And that's how it looked like. All these crazy lines, right? But now what you're doing, you're taking this paper and you slowly, slowly bringing it to the normal state. And then what you do, you're gonna do that kind of thing, that. You're gonna be doing that kind of thing. And then your paper will come back, maybe not 100% normal, but it's not as jammed as it was before, okay? And that's what we're doing here. We threw our emotion on the paper, and now with those lines, what we're trying to do, we're trying to smooth it out, bring it to original state. We're saying, we're declaring to the world, we are not alone in our suffering, number one, because people go through this. It's a common knowledge that people going through similar situations. Everyone had ever a situation in the family where we're arguing with our partners, or situations at work. Everyone. We all of a sudden, we're not alone. We're also connected to the entire universe, and the entire universe is telling us, relax, relax, you're not really alone in this. There are a bunch of people that go through this, and all you need to do is just accept it. Not mentally accept it from changing your neural connections. Because mentally you may have resistance. You may say, I don't want to accept this situation. This situation is too disturbing for me. Why would I accept this? I don't want to. I don't want to accept a friend who really doesn't like me, trying to put me down in front of my friends. Or I don't like a husband who's constantly saying nasty things to me. I gain weight, or like I don't look good, or something like that, right? I'm just giving you examples from real life that people may think. Let it go. Just in this case, enjoy adding lines, right? You're drawing neurographic lines, you're doing rounding, and you're creating a brave new world. So your catharsis slowly will start disappearing. That's what's going to happen, and they're already happening. We see, right? It started to dissolve in this whole pattern that we're creating, right? And we can go from here, right? You can double, remember? And take a look, take a notice. Do you feel any body reactions? Do you feel tense? You feel like you're tense? Do you feel like you have a headache develop? Do you feel like you're getting even more angry when you do this type of work? So all of this should go to your neural track, right? Your mental images that you start seeing, your bodily reactions, and your emotional state. All of this should be reflected in your neural track. And look how I'm dissolving it. I'm just adding lines. I'm just adding them. That's all I'm doing. And I love it already, you know. I started to feel so much more relaxed when I started, I started doing this work. So here you could see a shape that really reminds you part of the circle. You can bring it like that. You can make a circle out of it. You know, in Neurographica, what we say, it's impossible to spoil neurographic work with the circles. So if you feel like you need to add a circle, please do so. Even look, you can add another small circle here. Those small circles, they make your drawing look prettier. It gives them like a sense that you are putting pearls somewhere on top of that, right? And your line can actually go over it, creating something even more attractive. Because you're not only working on psychological issue or emotional state, you're also working on beautiful drawing as well. And that's how you're going to slowly shift towards being an artist. You know, I have a student who joined my lessons. She took several lessons, but her drawings were like so-so, not really good. But then after time, she came back to me and she's like, no, you know what? I can't get rid of the thought that I really want to be an artist. And I said, look, you just need to continue with your drawings. Try to do some neuro art. And what makes art neuro art? When you add all these lines and roundings and rounded shapes, that's what makes any drawing neuro art. Like my company is called Amarna Neuroart. Why? Because I can turn any drawing into neuro art just by adding those beautiful lines and roundings and shapes and so forth. Every neuro art has that kind of pattern. If you take this one, you could see everything is rounded, right? The lines are all over the place. Everything just looks, and you know this is neurographic art, right? So, and here you can do the same. You know, not only working on what bothers you, but also creating beautiful artwork. And see, slowly but surely, our drama is disappearing on the paper. And it's important to register that. I'm registering for my neurotrack that I feel much better now. I feel more expanded. And I hope you do too. Not necessarily immediately, the first lesson, because you're doing it for the first time. But when you're going to start practicing it, you're going to start noticing. So my advice to you, get yourself a small album. Let me show you what album you could get. Get yourself a small album, put it in your bag, like this one, this size, right? It's almost like a half of what we're doing. So you could get that, and or any other brand, as long as it's mixed media. And take like a little bag or something where you could put your markers and maybe 10, 12 pencils, colored pencils. And while you're traveling, you can start work on, like, you see? You can start like working on your issues. You can start working, here's my work that I rounded. Remember, we did all of this, boom, 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 boom. I've rounded the whole thing. And while you're traveling to work, maybe on the bus, or maybe you're traveling somewhere else, you can just draw and color. And that's how my small album looks like. And I've got like probably 10 of them, believe it or not. So it is a good practice. And first of all, it will give you a good sense of what you can get out of Neurographica. One thing, if you only draw 1 or 2 drawings, and another thing, when you constantly draw. When I started Neurographica, I was drawing like crazy. I could not eat, I could not sleep. My interest was all about Neurographica. I'm not saying it's healthy, because I think I got addicted at some point. But then, you know, I really worked through a lot of my emotions, a lot of my negative feelings, and I changed it. I really changed it for good. Now, for me to get out from balanced emotional state takes a lot. It has to be something really disturbing. Like news I've got yesterday about the company falling apart. It's not like I didn't know that, but when somebody tells you that, and you know, it's just kind of like, it can be disturbing, honestly. So, and again, you saw what I've just done, right? That was just a little curve. I turned it into the circle, and I continue. And it's kind of fun, right? Because we don't know what we're going to get at the end, but we already see how things are changing here. And I draw another line here. I draw another line, and I draw another one. That's how we do it. We're really changing our own way of thinking by dissolving. And here I may do another line here. Really, here is your creative process on how you're going to dissolve. Most important, you must dissolve it, either by drawing lines like that, creating new shapes, anything would work here, because you really, your goal is no longer see your original catharsis. So you round it. And sometimes people telling me, Margarita, it takes too much time to do this type of work. You know, when you start drawing a lot, it could take much less time at the end. When you're just starting, yes, I agree. It may take more time, but with time, you can get used to this. And for me, it's important to mention to you that once you dissolve, you still can see that kind of shape, but everything else that appears here, anyway, it makes it less visible, right? And I really want to dissolve this one. So the more lines I'm going to add, the better dissolution is going to happen. But for you, when you finish this whole process of dissolving, right, figure and background step, you can relax. You can even take a break. You can take a break and then finish coloring later or the next day. But before this stage, I would not recommend taking a break. Sometimes people finish rounding the catharsis part, like we did in the beginning. We finished rounding. Sometimes people take a break after that if the issue is really disturbing, really bad issue. They feel like, oh my God, I'm suffocating. I can't continue working on this. Then you can take a break after that as well. But if the issue is not so pressing, then I would advise you finish the whole dissolving part, and then you can do whatever you want. Then you can relax and finish the next day. And what the method is saying that when we do this type of work before we go to sleep, right? It's good that we have classes at night, not in the morning. By the time we wake up, you may get a moment that will allow you to resolve the issue. You would get that aha moment. And the aha moment is something that, let's say you've been thinking about and thinking, like, oh my God, I can't find solution to the problem, right? I can't, it's just impossible to resolve. And then you wake up in the morning, let's say you work tonight, and then you wake up next morning and you're like, oh my God, I know how to resolve this issue. How come I didn't even think about it? I don't know. It's just impossible to believe. You see what I'm doing? I'm breaking the shape with another line. That's what you do to dissolve it anyhow possible. And again, you know, the answer may come to you later. It doesn't have to happen immediately. For some people, it's an immediate answer. They saying, oh my God, I think I know what to do now. I think I know. But for some people, it's like, okay, that's fine. I enjoy my drawing. I hope I'm going to get my aha moment at some point tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow. Sometimes we need to do a case. What is case in Neurographica? Case in Neurographica is something that you need to work on the same subject matter several times. Let's say you have a conflict in the family with the mother-in-law or with a kid, and then after one drawing, the problem is not resolved. So what you're going to do, you're going to create numerous of such catharses, of these algorithms of removing of inner limitation in order to resolve it. And we call it case when you do 3, 4, 5 drawings using the same subject. So you're not jumping to another subject until you're resolved with the previous one. And you can only do one work for one subject matter. Let's say if I work on my relationship with the company, I cannot work on the same day on my relationship with my husband, for example. It's not going to work. Your brain is going to get confused. Your brain is going to refuse to do any changes. So when you're working on issues, take just one subject matter, take just one theme and work on this. Make sure that you're getting results and do not work on any other subject matters. Just do one subject matter a day. You can do multiple works using the same subject matter, but you cannot do multiple subject matter in one day. If you have a question about this, please keep it, and we can talk about this more at the end. But it's important because you're going to confuse your brain. Some people do this, oh my God, they have such a big level of anxiety. So they say, oh my God, you know, I already worked on my issue with my boss, but now I want to work on the issue with my son. You cannot do it the same day. You should wait till tomorrow. Even if you have a strong urge to do this. what's going to happen, your brain is going to really resolve the previous issue that you had, plus you're going to confuse yourself. Nothing good is going to come out of it. So I advise you not to do it. Totally not. So now we see a totally different pattern here. Although I can still see a little bit of that, but it doesn't bother me as much, right? And I can always add more lines if it bothers me. For our purpose, we really need to reduce emotional charge here, because so much electricity went toward this catharsis. So much electricity and so much energy was spent that we really want to reduce that charge and get more like to the meditative state. That's why it's good sometimes to put a music in order to bring you to more comfortable state of mind where you're not as emotionally charged as you were at the beginning. So you could see what I'm doing. I continuously try to dissolve and resolve this whole situation on the paper. All right, so that would be integration, figure and background. We are dissolving our original catharsis in the field of this drawing. So the next step is really fun. The next step is coloring. And people usually feel excellent when they start color. And how do you color that? You select any pencils that you really like. Start with ones that you like. Okay, and I'm gonna do some unusual, a little bit maybe unusual combination. Take like 3, 4, maximum 5 of them, right? So it doesn't look like you are drawing the Christmas tree or something like that. Take like 5 of them, that should be okay. I'm gonna take some pink. We'll see what happens. If I need, I can bring another. So you select pencils, and then intuitively, you never know how your end product will look like. You don't know. So what you need to do, you're gonna start just drawing, coloring. So what I'm doing here, and the way I'm coloring it, I'm just applying the color, but look how I'm doing it. The edges of the segments that you see, they create boundaries for my colors. Look, you see that? I'm not gonna go over from here to half of this. If I'm coloring this one, if I'm coloring this segment, then what I could do, I cannot leave it like that. You see what I mean? I cannot leave, because it's not gonna be the integration, it's gonna be disintegration if I would leave it like that. So I would need to finish. I can make it a little bit 3D-like. You see what I'm doing? The way I'm doing it, I'm applying more pressure towards the edges of those segments, and I'm creating kind of like a 3D feeling. You don't have to do it immediately, but I'm just showing you different ways of doing it, right? And then if I use one color here, I have to use it somewhere else, right? And I just look around and I intuitively pick the space where else I can use it. And again, when we do coloring, we don't create mosaic. I can do this one with this color, I can do this one with this color, and then red. Instead of integration, I'm gonna get disintegration. The way to integrate is to color several segments, like I'm doing it, you see, one segment, second segment, and I'm already starting the third segment, right? I'm coloring them with one color. And usually you take 3, 4, sometimes 5 segments in order to color. So you don't create mosaic. Mosaic is not the right way of dealing with this algorithm. And I see people still doing it. I'm saying, please don't. But sometimes our brain doesn't register it because we like mosaic. The brain really resists this whole integrative process. The brain tells you, oh no, if you put different colors here, it's gonna look pretty. But that's not true, it's not gonna look pretty. The whole idea is to create large figures with one color. That's the idea. How many segments I have here? Let me see. 1, a little circle here, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Minimum 3. Sometimes people add 2, but it's for decorative purpose. You could leave 2 if you just want to do accent, like a little parts just to make your drawing look pretty. Otherwise, I would not even do that at all. So, okay, so I've done that. Now I'm gonna use yellow. You know, with the yellow, in Neurographica, we all know that yellow is a perfect color to use in Neurographica coloring. Why? Because it brings the sunshine, it brings that golden feeling that everything is going to be good. We are not concerned about anything when we're using yellow. Look, I'm using yellow, it brings so much sunshine. It just gives me incredible sense of well-being. So what my teacher is saying, if you really want to brighten up your drawing, you could use yellow for this. And you don't have to color the entire drawing. You can just color part of it, but make sure if you leave something white, not color it, then it makes sense. Because sometimes people leaving like blank spaces because they're tired of coloring. And that would not be a good reason for that. Definitely, I would advise you not. I would advise you, if you are leaving blank spaces, then what you would really need to explain why. And if you don't have enough explanation, that means that you just left it for the sake that you're tired and you don't want to draw, you don't want to color it anymore. You see what I'm doing? I'm just going over, just over even my boundaries, but everything is within the boundaries. I don't go outside. I don't go here. I don't go there. Everything is within the segments, right? And we continue coloring. We continue with the process. Let's see what happens. So we are, right now what we're doing, we're creating large figures using one color. We are integrating segments of our drawing into larger figures. And we're doing it intuitively. We don't think much. Oh my God, should I color it here or there? Am I doing it right? Yes, you're doing it right because you're doing it intuitively, and your brain may have some resistance towards that, but that's our job, to break old patterns. And even if we have resistance, so what? We expect this in this practice, that we may have some resistance here. All right, and at this point, you know, using bright colors like red and some yellow already gives some kind of like nice feeling that everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. You know, that's what I feel. Now, I should not really worry about things that are going on right now. I'm going to be okay. See, like I found it something that I haven't rounded, and then I round it. It's not really end of the world. If something is missed, you can always correct it. Okay? And then you register what you feel when you are actually coloring. What do you feel? Do you feel a sense of expansion? And look, right here, what you could do, you could just color, not the entire thing, or just leave it like it's a shade, like it's a shade. See what I'm doing? It will give like very nice, see that? It's like shading more than coloring. And you can actually do that kind of shading within the patterns here as well, but make sure that the shading doesn't leave like standalone white parts. It has to be all incorporated in color. It's just the part of it is darker and another part is lighter, but all covered with the color. You see that effect? I just want to show you so you also know that you could do something like that. And we continue to color. And you know, at this point, if you're recording your neurotrack, what you could do, you could just say, oh my God, you know, just breathe and say that, oh my God, love my colors. I just, you know, some people using chakra colors, it helps with healing. They bring like violet color and some orange for second chakra for Swadhisthana. They bring some chakra related colors. Right away, they feel connected to their chakras, right? I don't know how it works, but I think it's all in neuroscience that we may expect these reactions like that. It's just expected. that our body may react, our brain may react, our emotions may react. Some people, I've seen people laughing, like we're sitting at the class, we are coloring, and some people start to laugh. And I'm like, oh my God, it's very nice. I see that you're laughing, but what is this all about? Oh, I just remember a joke that somebody like my coworker told me. That's wonderful. She already forgot what she was working on. That's a terrific feeling of liberation from a thought pattern that really, really sucked out all the energy from her. And then she's like sitting and laughing. She's like, oh my God, just remembered something really, really funny. That's wonderful. But some people may cry, you know. It may really bring some bad emotions and memories. Let's say if it's a breakup, if a loved one, or if it's something like, or the death in the family, you may start feeling a little bit more emotional with this work. You're like, oh my God, yes, I remember now. But sometimes for transformation, we really need to laugh or cry or do anything in order to bring us back to the transformative state, because transformation is born in a zone of discomfort. You cannot transform in the zone of comfort because you are sitting in the comfort zone where everything is working already. So how are you going to bring changes to your life? How are you going to go to the gym for exercise if you're like, oh my God, I don't even know why I need it. I feel great. I think I can survive without exercising. But then with time, you start feeling like your body falling apart. And then anyway, you would go to some sort of exercise, not necessarily to gym, but somewhere else, right? So that's what we really need to see, how we feel, what's going on. Do we have any bodily reactions towards this process, right? Like right now, I feel that for some reason, my heart started pumping. And I think it's because I use the red colors. Sometimes people reported to me that when they're using some bright colors, in Qigong, they call young colors or male colors. They're bright, they like charged with energy. They can have some heart pumping towards them, but that's fine. You cannot really do any harm with that. So, and you continue. So for this work, what else you could use? You could use highlighters. You could use aquarelle colored pencils. You know, there are aquarelle colored pencils. Let me see if I have something to show you. You could use them, and when you color with them, then you use a little bit water, but be very careful because you can create a mess with that. I can't find them for some reason, but they look like a roll, right? You can roll them like this and close and then unroll. And if any of you will have interest in them, just ping me. I'll send you the link to, or maybe I'll just post a link to the group for this aquarelle or watercolor pencils. So some people do like this. They do drawing with that. Then they take a little paintbrush and they with water, they do a little bit water on top. And it creates the feeling of fluid. But you know what? Maybe in the beginning, it's not such a wonderful idea because you need to learn how to work with the algorithm itself. And if you're going to jump into some creative artwork, it may pull you away from understanding the algorithm and working through some pressing issues that you might have in your life. And I hope you have a sharpener. So if your pencil goes a little bit off, then you have to really sharpen. And I'm using Prismacolor. And Prismacolors, they easily get off with a couple of drawings. You really need to sharpen them. All right, so let's see what else we can do here. All right, let's do that. And believe me, you know, your first work you may not be too happy with. You may say, oh, it's a little bit primitive maybe, or I expected something better. Don't really kill yourself over. My first ones were horrible. When I looked at them, now I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it, what progress I made. And it's very nice to save them. Don't throw ever your work, because that would really show you what progress you made over a year. well, half a year, depending for how long you're going to be drawing. Some people get stuck with this method for the rest of their lives because it's really working so well. So like I looked at my drawings after 1.5 years being in this practice, and it definitely tells me that I've made tremendous progress. I'm so proud of all the achievements, and you will be too. If you stick to this practice, you will definitely see a lot of results here. That is absolutely inevitable. You would need to really just practice and ground yourself and work for all your problems through this algorithm. And more algorithms that we're going to learn. There are other ways of using similar technique, but doing something different. You will see what else you can do. You will see how fast you can get out of your negative state. You will see how you can balance your left and right hemispheres. We're going to be talking about this as well over the course. So it's just the first basic algorithm of removing inner limitations. And it is this, the original one. The other ones grew out of it, right? And then you will see which one to use for situations that you may experience. So right now, just learn the basics, and then over the course, you learn other ways of dealing with some stressful situations. And now I'm going to use some pink. That's how you work, right? You select on you think about your color pattern, like, okay, I want to use this color right now. And then you start using one. You may change your mind with the second one later. So in this case, all you need to do is just to pick another color, right? Nothing really is going to happen if you change the colors. You may. It's a process work. Nothing is defined in this work. You may start with one, and then you may say, oh, I don't like it. I don't even know why. Why have I used this pencil? I should have been using something else. Well, so what? So then you do another work and use some other pencils, and at the end, you can always correct. You can always put another pencils on top of another. Like, let's say it's pink, and I'm gonna say, oh, I don't want to use pink. Let me do red, and change it completely to red, right? It's totally possible. So if for some reason you don't like your colors, you have an option to stick with this for a while, but then you also have an option finish it. Maybe the end work is going to look beautiful. You just don't see it right now. You see that? All intuitively. I'm not putting too much thought into the process. I intuitively color. Most important, I have to remember the segments that I cover cannot be just one segment. It has to be more. Here I have to get out. I have to get out and do this kind of shading that will bring me to a beautiful 3D effect. So my whole pattern is going to look a little bit 3D. And I'm going to be doing the shading and coloring. So I have a natural shading. I don't have like a white circle sticking out. It's more like all blended kind of thing. It's all blended, right? And I'm going to sharpen my pencil again. Okay, I'm going to do some more pink because pink really worked so well here. I feel it. How do I feel that pink worked very well? It's just experience, right? If you're not an artist, you may not feel it immediately. This color does this for me, this color does that for me. You may not even feel it. You may feel after a while, after you practice this more and more. And trust me, the first level is about basics. It's all about basics. There's much more than that. We have mandalas, we've got goals, intentions, and results. We've got neurographic of relationship, a tree algorithm where we're setting our goals and actually bringing all our resources. This is the therapeutical one, the one that we're studying at this course, and the basic one, because that would give you abilities and skills to do more complex work afterwards. And again, if you take with you small album and carry with you together with pencils and markers, anytime you're feeling down or you're feeling like you're upset or something, you can always take your album and do this algorithm, do your catharsis, and then go for the steps, and that would round you up for sure. Notice that we're not using any other shapes except circles. We don't do triangles in this algorithm. We don't do squares. Some people saying, why can't I use square or triangle? Because we want to get back to the rounded state. That's the whole idea. Why would I use triangle when I have triangles here already? You see, like the whole thing is like basically the catharsis mostly is triangles. So that's why I'm not. And also, all I want to do is just to get to a rounded state of mind. Square is not going to help me with that. Square I can use in modeling when I'm going to be modeling my future and I need some support, or I'm drawing a pattern with the shapes, then I would use square. Here we're not using, we're only using circles. And circles can be used as many circles as you want. But some people get hooked on circles. Then I tell them, please stop drawing circles, because at some point they just like, I really need to draw a circle. And then all I see is circles all over the place. And that is not good also, because it creates another habit, right? We want to get out of the habits. That's the whole idea of this algorithm. And you see how pretty it looks. Already got some very nice flow, right? I see like some composition here done with the color, right? First there was a composition done with the marker, and now I see composition done with the color, right? All right, so let me just do more here. I hope you're drawing with me today and also getting some interesting impressions. But I'm talking all the time because there's so much information that I need to give you. And when you're going to be watching and recording, it's going to be easier for you. You can stop recording at any time, right? You can breathe, you can drink your water, you can do some other stuff that you're not doing right now because you really want to catch up with the lesson. But in recording, I'm sure this information will sink. It will sink to your brain, and you will accept it much easier than probably you're accepting it now. Because also don't forget that our brain resists all the changes. It likes to be in a state of comfort. It doesn't like to get into alternative. So what you really want to do when you doing this kind of like shading, everything has to be so blended that you don't see sticking pencils like this. It doesn't, because otherwise you're going to be creating some disintegration if you're doing that. You see that? So I'm not going to color the whole thing. I like the way it looks right now. I think it makes sense to me. I think I've integrated very well with the color. I created large figures, right? I created some composition. Maybe just a little bit more here because it's not fully shaded. I would just continue doing that. And maybe even I would add here because I like to have a shade also. I like combination of pink and green. Always gives me a nice feeling. Reminds me of lollipops that I used to love when I was a child. So, and you see like your childhood memories may come up, your some other memories can come up, the feeling of taste. Some people are not visual. They experience everything kinesthetically. So you may get kinesthetic reactions, right? So, all right. So I'm done with that. I'm done with the step 4 completely. And step 4 was about integration. 4.1 was figure and the background. And 4.2 is archetyping. Archetyping is basically, we call the process of combining the segments with the color archetyping, okay? And then As a next step, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna draw field lines. What is field lines? So think about thunderstorm, right? When it's just a rain, when it's just a rain, yeah, you may feel sad, you may feel a little bit upset, you may feel melancholic, you may feel meditative, right? It could bring you to a nice state as well. Rain can bring us to a calmness and everything. But when we have a thunderstorm, what do we see? We see all this lightning, we see all this electricity going over the entire sky. It's so fully charged with energy, right? So when we dissolved our catharsis in the field, when we created those large figures, all we want to charge this whole drawing with some lines that go from one end of the drawing to another, charging it with the electricity, saying, all right, let it be. Let it be. Let this catharsis to be dissolved, integrated into the world pattern. I don't want to feel any negative reaction. I don't want to have any negative reactions. I just want to dissolve this whole ego. I want to dissolve all the limitations that I had towards a person or situation or anything that you're working on. It's all dissolved now. But how can I finish it? By putting those lines across your drawing, you're basically saying, let it be, let it be, let it be. You charging the whole drone with the high voltage. And it's not necessarily need to be in the bright colors. It can be, but not necessarily. It can also be in some other colors like blue, or it could be in violet color, right? This one looks blue on the camera, but in reality it's violet. So you take something that is different from the marker that you use for your drawing. So I'm gonna take pink one. And look what I'm doing. You don't have to do it right now, just watch what I'm doing. What I'm doing, I'm taking those lines, the neurographic lines that go through the entire drawing, just like that. 1, 2, and don't be scared. You're not gonna be spoiling your drawing. Some people saying, oh my God, I'm gonna spoil my drawing. They go in parallel here, but they can actually cross, but they need to go to the same direction, right? They can go to the same direction. And you do like 3, 4, 5, 6 maximum, like that. Okay, I just want to do another one because I want everything to look harmoniously. Everything should be harmoniously incorporated. So I've done all these lines, and what I need to do is to round, not everywhere. Those lines don't need to be rounded at every crossing, although I myself prefer to round them everywhere. But by the algorithm, by the rules, you don't really have to do it. If you don't feel like doing it, you just don't round everywhere. Round where it's visible to you. And you know, because I'm so attuned to those lines, I already started feeling like my heart is pumping, right? Because they really bring so much energy into your drawing, even though you don't feel it right now, I'm sure. It's very, for me, I didn't feel anything in the beginning. I'm like, what are they talking about? What kind of field lines? I don't feel anything, but now I do. It comes with experience. And you see what I'm doing? I'm creating those little circles, and then I just color inside. I like this. You know, it gives some sense of the little circles, you know, they always bring some beauty into anything. So here I'm gonna round, look, I've rounded here, and here I can just draw a circle and round it with everything, just like that. Look how pretty it is. It looks really pretty. It gives that sense of small figures because everything is large here. We have limited small figures. And look, if we have small circles in a regional drawing, it's better to add more circles around, either with the field lines, or you could add them during your integration process. That you could do at any point. Like here, I want to round, round, more rounding. See, like I really like to connect as much as I can. Some people don't. By algorithm, you don't have to, so you know that. It's just me being perfectionist. You see, like I just did a little circle here. I need to do that now. It looks pretty. I didn't spoil anything. You can do it with the thick markers. You can do it with the thin markers. But the idea is to have those lines. They're not really mandatory. Some people skip them altogether. I myself was skipping them in the beginning because I didn't like that. I thought they're spoiling my drawing. But now I always do it because I know they fully charged with energy and I don't want to miss on this energy. Why would I do it? I do it for psychological reason. This whole algorithm. Why would I deprive from psychological help of those lines? So now I'm always adding them in my algorithm of removing inner limitations. And why it's called, if you guys think about it, why does it call algorithm of removing inner limitations? Because every conflict and every emotional negative state we have bring us to limitation. See, like two circles here. And why it brings us to limitations? Because all energy goes towards this conflict. You're thinking about it, you're sleeping over it, you can't eat properly, you cannot really do anything properly because all the energy is there in the conflict and it becomes your limitation. When do you become complete and rounded? When you resolve it. So it's gone. And when you work on your negative situations at home or at work or with friends, you will find yourself that you become more and more and more rounded. I wasn't like I am now before. It took me a while. I worked through my issues. I worked from my past memories. I worked through my family issues. I worked through a lot of things before I became much more rounded. Still, I have a lot to work on, but you cannot compare how it used to be. And I became also an artist with this type of work. Now I'm working on my painting, Eternal Bond, and I'm also working on my other things, that other projects. You know, it's just totally changed my life. I could say that my life had been divided between my life before Neurographics and after Neurographic. So when you're done with this, right, it completes the step number 5 of the algorithm. What you could do, you can start looking at it and see, is anything on this drawing really brings your attention? Any part, it doesn't have to be tangible figure. It is an abstract art, right? We're not fixating at this point on any tangible objects here. But you may look at it and say, does anything brings my attention towards a part or maybe some section of the drawing? And at this point, you can start rotating it. You can start rotating sometimes, and a lot of times, it makes much more sense upside down. I've learned that people sometimes, even some instructors, they asking me, they saying, why are you rotating? I don't ask my students to rotate. The reason why I'm doing it, because experimentally, you see, like I found some things that not rounded well. Experimentally, I've learned that sometimes when we turn our drawing upside down or vertically, we can find some more meaning in that. Okay, and I already feel like this would be a much better position for my drawing, because it really immediately on intuitive level it gave me like it gave me like the feeling of going up there to this direction. And we know when we're going from the left to the right, we're going from the past to the future. And I feel like everything goes there. But let's just rotate again. Let's see, maybe this direction would be fine. No, I don't find that to be very useful for me. Or maybe that, right? Here we also see the same direction. The vector goes from this corner to the right corner, upper right corner. But I don't feel it inspiring to me. I don't see anything that talks to me in this position. I don't see anything that inspires me. Let's turn more. And that's what you should do with every drawing like that. Every one of them, okay? And then when I finally turned it, what do I see here? I see a figure that actually really talks to me. First of all, I see this part of the circle surfacing, right? And what I want to do, I really don't do anything yet. Just watch me doing it. This step of algorithm is called graphical affixing, or refixating a part of the drawing, because we find something very fascinating about this part. So what I want to do with black marker, black is optional. You could use the same marker just to make it thicker. I want to complete the circle. I just want to complete it. Not entirely, but just kind of emphasize it with the color. So what I tell my brain, I'm saying, you know what? Here I have like a huge circle going on. It's not perfectly shaped, but still I like that kind of feeling that there is a circle here. There's something circular. Maybe it's a spiral. I don't know. Maybe it's a part of the spiral, but I just want to make it thicker, that it's visible to me. What else is interesting here? This shape, it looks like a bird, or I don't know. It looks like something, a flying object here that goes up. It's flying up to the sky. And it has beautiful wings. And it's just, you know, I would not even call it a bird. It's more like some mystical creature, some mythical persona. I don't know. It's just something that really, for some reason, brought my attention. So what I want to do, I really want to make that thicker. You can use black marker if you haven't used black. You can use same marker but thicker. But then you make this figure visible. Why? If it gives you good vibes, why not to do it? You see this? That shape. So this shape is inside of my my circular shape here, right? It's inside of this, and you know, it just gives me a good vibe for some reason. You know, lately I'm getting lots of dragons in my drawing. Maybe it's a little dragon that came to help me in my situation. I don't know. Just like that, right? I'll make it more visible. So we are calling it affixing, graphical affixing. And now when I look at the whole drawing, oh my God, it's just totally changed thing. It's like a different world. I love my little dragon. You see, if something is sticking like this, you have to really connect it so it's not sticking and round. Nothing should stick, first of all. Everything should be integrated, either with color or with rounding or by connecting it to another lines or to edges of the paper. Everything is integrated now. I feel fantastic. I feel fantastic. I feel like this object is flying high to the sky. It's a golden dragon or something. And here's some, you know, something goes on here. It's flying over that part. It's just beautiful. It gives me a beautiful vibe and total reassurance that everything is going to work in my benefit. Everything is going to work in my benefit. So, and that would complete my work. It would complete it. Okay. And then let's say if tomorrow I still feel negative, I feel like, oh my God, yes, I feel better, but still it bothers me. I'll do another one. I'll do another algorithm on another paper and look how beautiful it looks. Imagine putting it on a large wall. And how long did it take me? Like about an hour. About an hour it took me to finish. I know the class was 2 hours, but we've been talking and we've been going through theory. If something is sticking, I would thicken it. Like I'm thickening parts of it because right now I see some sticking parts looking at me. You see that? And I think, you know, I'm looking at the camera right now and looking at my drone here. I'm satisfied. When you get this sense of satisfaction, you may not get it from your first drone, but when you get the sense of satisfaction, your work is done. And in neurotrack, you would say, I started frustrated, I had body symptoms, my left side hurt, my head hurt, but I was disturbed, I was feeling anxious emotionally. But through my practice, through applying the colors, for some reason, I decided to use green, pink, and yellow. I applied them, and then I started to feel a sense of calmness, sense of peace. And when I looked at my final drone, first of all, I don't see anything what was going on in the beginning, right? Because first of all, I turned that upside down, totally changed the whole view. And secondary, it just gave me a totally different image at the end. Sometimes we don't see the image. Sometimes it could be just a small figure. It doesn't have to be a bird or a butterfly or any other insects. People see lots of insects usually. It could be just abstract. It could be just a little shape like that. That all of a sudden you look at it like, oh my God, it just tells me something. It gives me some sort of feeling, right? But not necessarily. Sometimes we don't get it from the drone. In this case, you just don't fixate anything. You just leave it as is. Don't fixate. Finish with your field lines and don't apply any fixation to your drone. So what else I have to say about this algorithm? When you do your first step, right? When you do a catharsis, and then you do your rounding, your first rounding, as I said, you can take a break if the issue is really pressing at that time. But I would advise you to take a break only when you dissolve this whole drawing on the paper. And then you can take a break, because it would give you much better sense of what goes on when you finish the first part like this, right? There is a catharsis here. It is fully dissolved. And then I stopped. I haven't colored it. And maybe tomorrow I will color the whole thing, right? I can take a break after that. The teacher is saying when you finish rounding catharsis itself, you can take a break. But in my practice, if I continue dissolving and stop at the point when everything is dissolved, you may get much better feeling than you just stop at the point when you just rounded catharsis, in my experience. And again, men and women, totally different. Maybe for men it worked. I don't know, Kevin and Alex and Sam, they would tell us a story, what happens if they stop after rounding catharsis. But for the girls, I think girls are more like perfectionists more than men sometimes. We want everything to get to the point where, okay, I'm done, I've rounded everything, and now I'm ready to color it, right? I've added some color here, but it's meaningless. Don't pay attention to this. I was just trying, I was experimenting with something. Look at the pattern itself, right? It's totally ready to be colored. So, and again, color is not necessary. You don't have to color if you don't feel like. You see, like I've done my catharsis, I rounded, I dissolved, and I stopped. And I don't know when I'm gonna color. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, or maybe even later. Everything is optional after that point. After this, after the point of connecting figure with the background, 4.1, everything else is optional. Coloring is optional. The archetyping, when you're creating large figures with the color, the field lines, the fixation of certain parts of your drawing, all of this is optional. Yet, I personally don't feel complete until I finish all the steps of the algorithm. And the algorithm, all the steps, it is all in your presentation that is attached in the group. So you could always remind yourself where you are in the process. You will always remember which part you're going through. And you know where to find me as well, right? So please post your questions, ping me. You may go for some emotional discharge. You may feel a little bit anxious during this work. It's all normal. You cannot harm yourself with this work, impossible. And if you're not breathing, just breathe. If you feel like you need some water, just put some water behind either behind you or next to you. So anytime you need water, you can reach out to that. All right. So that would complete basically the first class around the algorithm of removing inner limitations. All other classes will use similar technique, but it will give you a broader perspective on how can you resolve the issues immediately, how you can balance left and right brains, how you can, in your catharsis, how you can see different shapes and figures and how you can integrate them. We're going to be looking at that. And we're going to be also looking at the algorithm of identifying your intentions. This is something really cool. It's a graphical work, you will see it, but most of the time will be spent on deepening your knowledge of the algorithm of removing inner limitations. So this is my complete drawing. I'll take a picture and I'll put it in my album in the group so everyone could see it. Just remember that don't overthink. You know, analysis paralysis. Sometimes we get into paralysis by thinking too much. Should I call it this way or that way? Will it look nice? Don't think much. Just do intuitively. You know what I sometimes do? I ask my students just to take a box of pencils, just like that, and just grab the colors pencils that lying right on top and work with them, right? First of all, it would really break their thinking pattern. What should I use, which color or which pencil? Secondary, they would need to come up with some nice drawing, nice coloring, just using the pencils that they would intuitively pick up by not looking at them. So this is something that you could do later in the game. Just start doing classical algorithm, see how it goes, see how you feel, report back to me. So you would need to do the classwork and you would need to do another work based on this algorithm. So I'm asking you to do 2 works using this basic for your homework, right? You can work on the same issue. You could do 2 work, 2 drawings working on the same issue, or you could do one on one issue and the other day on another issue, or your emotional state. And we're going to take a look at your neurotract to see how you felt. And of course, it's just a minimum I'm asking you. If you feel like drawing every day, please do so and post in the group. I would like to see it. I know some people are working with me privately. They're not working in a group. So for ones who are working privately with me, don't hesitate sending me over Facebook Messenger. I would like to see everything what you do, and I would like to see neurotrack explanation of the process as well. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch back to my camera. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to disappear. And you guys can unmute yourself. Let me unmute you. If you muted yourself, then you can unmute and put the camera on. Sanchi, you are muted. Yeah, excellent. And if you want to unmute yourself, you're unmuted, but I don't see you for some reason. All right. What questions do you have at this point? Anything, Sanchi?
Oh, okay. So when I was drawing at first, some of my marker didn't come fully through, and then kind of got lighter in the background.
That's fine.
So when my lines crossed, and then do I need to fully darken them and integrate them?
Yeah, what I would do, the ones that didn't come out.
Yeah, can you see?
Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's great. Great work. I can tell you right away, even though I don't see the whole thing. But let's say when you do your catharsis, the markers sometimes go off. Like it really creates a transparent line or something. Just go over it again.
Okay.
You know, when you're going to start rounding, you can do with neurographic line.
Okay.
Or you could just put like a straight, not straight, but not neurographic, just a line to make them more visible, to stand out. And then start rounding.
Okay. And then when you, okay, so I'll take a picture of it and show you kind of this section
Sure.
that has the lighter. I have to show it to you, I think, because like I
Yeah, you
understand
can
you
take
can
a picture
mark in
and
them.
send me
Yeah,
over Facebook. I'll take
that's
a
what I'll
look.
do. Okay, because you'll see the bottom half. If I need to connect those lines, like they go from dark around the corners where I've rounded them, but in the center they're lighter.
Let's see.
Oh, okay, I'm going to take a picture.
Please. And while Sanchi is working on this, do you have any questions?
Oh, where do I find the note?
The notes, you're saying the presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presentation is attached to the group. I'll put your name under. So I'm going to mark your name there so you would know where to go.
Okay.
It's in the group. You can also find it in the file section. If you go to the left, when you're in a group, it shows you like posts, it shows you videos, things like that. And then you will see files. When you click on the file, you'll get the presentation. But I'll make sure you'll find it then. So no worries about that.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, for now. Yes, yes. What I would do, Sancha, I would just go over with the marker.
Okay.
To make them more visible. And I would definitely add much more, like you have enough lines for the first drawing. But what I would do, I would just add like maybe, I don't know, maybe 20% more.
Okay.
Specifically on the side where you don't have enough.
I haven't added my, those lines we were talking about that kind of work to cancel, like to let it go.
The lines that dissolving it, right?
Yeah, the dissolving lines, yeah.
So you need,
that would be my,
you need to add them. It's not
to
enough.
add them, okay, yeah.
Because I can still see that shape, right?
Yeah.
You would say it's enough when you no longer clearly see the shape that was your catharsis in the beginning.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
Just want to show you how do I switch the camera?
Yeah, and so what you could do, you could take a picture and send it to me over Facebook.
Right here, like this, is it considered pointy? I need to add a line here to soften it.
Anything it's from the first class, right then? Or from this class?
This class.
This class. So if you see anything pointing, you really need to take the line and draw from the point towards the edge of the paper, or you can connect to another line.
Okay.
That's what you do. Nothing should stick out. All the sharp corners should be connected through the neurographic lines. Definitely, that's number one rule. Because otherwise it's not going to be fully integrated, the whole pattern. And those sharp corners at some point, they're going to really stick and they may hurt you even when you look at them. Like you're looking at the sharp corners and you're like, I don't want those sharp corners. I really want everything to be rounded. But we have to pay attention to those hanging corners. Yeah. And did you do the first class yet or no?
I did the first class, but I need to go over again.
Yes. I know it takes time to observe. It's a lot of information.
Yeah,
so much. Yeah, I know, but
this is my first class, but I haven't finished yet.
It looks pretty from that point of view. It looks pretty. When you finish, you just post in your album, right? With
my own album or the album in the group?
In the group. You need to create album in the group. In the group, I have a video on how to create album in the group. So you go to the group, and if you scroll down towards the very beginning, the video is going to be there. It explains you how to create an album in the group. Okay, so and everything will go to the group. I know Kevin already created album. He already posted one of the drawings there, so you could take a look at Kevin's album.
Okay.
And also Sancha created an album, but she just, there's nothing in there yet, but all the albums is going to be filled with your drawings at some point. Anything else? You know what, guys? What I advise you, please rewatch the video. Everything was going fast because I only have 2 hours, right, for each algorithm that I'm explaining. So when you're going to be rewatching the video, everything will sync up, everything. You're going to synchronize this whole thing. You will understand better. You watch it several times. The more you watch, the more you will understand. And the more you draw, the better you're going to become at this drawing, this type of drawing. And you see, it looks really pretty at the end. And your drawing is going to look pretty at the end. You're going to love them. Maybe not immediately, but with time, definitely. People improve tremendously. It all depends how many drawings you do. The quantity in this case contributes to quality. Yeah, definitely. The quantity of the lines contribute to your, the quality of your work. The quantity of your drawings contribute to your emotional and physical state. The more you draw, the better you become. Not only artistically, but also in resolving your everyday issues. You're not going to get easily frustrated. You're not, like, when something comes out, it's not going to be your life drama anymore. Like for me, like, I don't know, for me, in order for me to get upset or get crazy about something, it has to be really huge, something like, I don't know, really, really big. I no longer react on small things. My energy is rounded. And I'm only doing it 1.5 years. So what I believe, the more I draw, the better I become, the more rounded I become, the more balanced I become. And that's the whole idea of this whole course, to make you more balanced. And then we get to the next course when we're going to be do life modeling, building your plans, working with your goals, getting results, and so forth. It's just too much information, and you can feel a little bit overwhelmed at this point, but just watch and rewatch the video. Stop my video, breathe through this, experience it, right? Because one thing is to do in theory, another way when you actually draw an experience. Then it becomes a lot of, you're going to get so many insights, and you're going to start catching the vibes of this method.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Anything else?
No.
All right. All right. So, Anne, I'm going to help you out with the album, if anything. Right? I'm going to point you where what you need to watch. And you guys, please always ask me, send me your drawings through private messaging, post it in the group, provide your Neurotrack, tell me how you feel. Nothing is wrong if you're going to say, Margarita, I feel overwhelmed with all this information. I'm a little bit confused here and there. That's fine. That's fine. I was confused. You have no idea. When I started, the method was still developing, and I was like, what the hell I'm doing? I don't know. But with time, everything got clear. I've integrated all my knowledge, and look, I'm teaching now. And if you are willing to teach, I'll be more than delighted to get you through all the steps, what's needed for that. All these levels, right? Right now it's all available in Russian and some in German, but my idea is to build English speaking world here in Americas. Like you in Canada, Sancha, I'm in the United States, we're still in the American continent. I want to unite all Americas together. Mexico as well. Yeah. South America.
Yeah.
And the plans are huge, to be honest with you. I have huge plans. And with Anne also, I know Anne wants to teach as well. And Anne has connection with Asian countries, and lots of Asian countries, English speaking as well. Hong Kong, right? Taiwan, Malaysia. I mean, it's just, the skies have no limit, right? And imagine how many people we can help with this method as well. Yeah.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. You have a good night. And I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.